I just talked for 5 minutes and my microphone wasn't on, so that's so much fun. A while ago I made the Goodreads challenge, which was I recommend to you what I read this year so far. And my goal was to read 24 books this year, and I achieved it, so I'm telling you the rest of them because I already made a video of the first half of them. The first one is called The Fortune's Daughter by Isabel Allende, and she's a Chilean author, and it's really good. I love this book so much, really. I didn't think I would like this much because it's like a history book. It's about a 16-year-old girl. She gets pregnant, and it's around the time they discover there's gold in San Francisco. So her boyfriend goes to be a miner because he wants to be really rich. And when she discovers she's pregnant, she decides to follow him and she doesn't tell anyone because she doesn't want to disgrace her family in Chile. There's something you should know about me, and that is I've never read the whole Harry Potter series. I feel ashamed. So I started reading them last year. And I read the first, I read in like 3 days. And then the second one I thought was really boring. I didn't like it at all. But I read the third one, The Prisoner of Azkaban. And this book is amazing, and Harry Potter doesn't need introduction. But it's so good. Even though I knew everything that happened because I watched the movies, it still kept me on my toes. And I really wished I could have forgotten all I know about Harry Potter to be scared of Sirius Black. My sister-in-law brought me from London this book, which I love Carrie, so I asked her to buy for me. And I was a bit disappointed because it talks a lot about bullying and not feeling like you fit in school and being different, and I can't relate much. Like, I have friends who are heavily bullied, but I can't relate much, so those parts were like, oh, okay, that sucks, but alright. And the part I really wanted to read was about breakups and relationship, and that part was too short. I really wanted it to be longer, but it happens. And I loved it reading because I could hear Carrie talking, and it's like her videos in a book form, so you can carry it around and not wear headphones. This one is called Sand Captains, and it's by a Brazilian author called Jorge Amado, and it's about a group of like 100 teenagers and children that live on the streets of Salvador, which is a city in Brazil. And I loved it, and it was for school, but it was awesome. And it made me cry a lot. The first time I read it, because I read in 9th grade as well, I didn't cry, and I still loved it. But this time around, it made me so sad. This one is my favorite book of all time. Everybody should read this. Cirque the Freak is the best book ever. This book is like explaining Game of Thrones to someone. When you get to the point where when the person can understand the story, you already told the whole first book. So, read it. It's about vampires, but it's scary vampires. But it's not that scary because it's for children, but as it goes, it gets heavier, and I really want to make this as TV series. So if someone wants to pay me, hey, okay, if you've seen the movie, throw it in the trash. Like, they fucked up the whole story. Read this instead. It's really good, and it's my favorite book ever. This one, it's called Pandemias, Humanidade at Risk, and it's by a Brazilian author called Stefan Cunha Ujvari. About like the history of a bunch of world pandemics that happened. And it was the first chapter. I loved it because it was a storytelling, like, oh, this guy walked into a hotel one day and he touched the doorknob, and then another guy touched the doorknob, and he got on a plane, and it tells you like step by step how the virus goes around. but I was actually studying in pandemic, so the only part that actually helped me with my research was about tuberculosis, and he explains why bacteria gets resistant from medicine. And it gets repetitive because the awesome thing he does in the first chapter, he does in every single one of them. So it gets kind of repetitive, but it's cool. This one, I think, is the only poetry book I've ever read in my life. It's called Feelings of the World. It's by Drummond Andrade, who's a Brazilian author, and he's really good. Like, I'm not into poetry, but these are awesome. The 5 people you meet in heaven. It was nice. I expected more, I think. I expected more philosophy and self-thinking, but it was really nice, and I liked the 5 people he met, and it was cute. And it's one of the few books I've known that it's an elderly person, the main character. So it's nice to have not a teenager saving the world for once. This is also by a Brazilian author called Antonio Prata. It's an autobiography. It's a few short stories of his childhood. It's called Naked in Boots. And everybody thought, oh my god, it's so funny and you're gonna love it. But 2.5 stars, really. This one I'm reading to get into film school because in the second part of my test, I'm gonna have specific questions on books. And this is one of them. It's called What Are Movies? And it's by, he was born in France, but he's naturalized Brazilian. His name is Jean Claude Bernardet. And it was alright. It's like a very cool book. Same thing with the pandemic one. I thought it was gonna give me more insight than it did, but it was nice. This one I think I'm gonna cut out and make a video just about this one because I have a lot of things to say. Then I continue my quest on reading the whole Harry Potter series and read the first one. And it was really good, and I love Cedric Diggory. And even though I know he dies since I'm 10, I still got sad and I still cried. And it's really good, and Flora's a bitch, oh my god. In the movie, I know she was stuck up, like she's a total bitch. Like how do you go somewhere and complain about the food every 5 seconds? Like, she's a total bitch. And I love Crumb and Hermione, and I really wanted them to be together and stay dating longer. Ron, you have to grow up to deserve her, so she'll be with Crumb instead. Last but not least, definitely not least, The Martian. Holy fucking shit. This book is amazing. Like, I can't even begin to describe. It's a guy who gets left behind on a mission. Like, his crew thinks there's a storm, and the crew thinks he died in the storm. So they leave him. But he wakes up and he's alone. And he has to spend 2 years in Mars. We're like, what? And the movie did a really good job because it's loyal, but there are a lot of parts missing. But they made it in a good way because the parts that are missing would be boring to watch on a movie. Like, they're really good in the book, but on a movie they would be really boring. So the screenwriters made a really good job on taking out the parts that were not cinematographic good. Those are the books that I read. Now I'm currently reading Going Bovine, so I can't tell you what I think yet. I don't know if it's just because I just read The Martian, but I think what's his name, Cameron, talks a lot like Mark Watney, but I don't know if this is because I read like them, I follow up. I don't know if it's because I'm still thinking about Mark Watney, but I think Cameron talks a lot about like him. And yeah, so we'll see. I'll tell you when I'm finished.